put it is, you need, solid hypotheses, first principles on thinking about the problems. You have to be problem driven, and then look for the data. You have to map the processes of your business, whatever they are. You have to make sure that you're asking the right questions. You have to make sure that you're asking the right questions the right way with the least amount of misinterpretation. You have to make sure that you visualize those questions. You visualize the problem well. What are the factors, sub-factors, attributes, metrics? Put a mind map in place. And then you have to make sure that for every business issue you have hypotheses. For those hypotheses you have questions. For those questions you know what data you need and what data you don't need. And then, question everything. Question even what you're getting from the data. Maybe I'm not seeing some data. Be a little bit, circumspect. I think, I was just reading something about asking the right question. Fundamentally, all good thinking, be it, great innovation in science or great innovation in business, all of these things have come from people asking the right questions. And what is a right question? What is a good question? What is a more beautiful question? And the thinking was that a good question is something which is hard enough that it is worth asking, and easy enough that it can be answered. So it is not too hot, not too cold, like your coffee. When your mom makes coffee for you, filter coffee, whatever it is, Hyderabad filter coffee, cannot be too hot that your lips will burn. But if it is below that temperature, it's boring. That's true about even life on Earth. If we had 20% more water, the whole Earth is covered. If we had 20% less water, it's only a desert. So it's very interesting that this is what is called as a Goldilocks state. So a good question is about having that Goldilocks state of being hard and being easy. And if you have that Goldilocks state of being hard and being easy, then you will actually have to look for who are these people who ask these questions. Who are the people who have the better propensity to ask these questions? Typically, they happen to be people who like to take ownership of the questions. It's not a question for somebody else. It's a question for them. They will answer it. It's a question which is, there are people who are not easily driven by experts. Their perspective is that the given mindset could be X, Y, and Z, but you know what, I'm going to ask that a little bit more. Their perspective is that an expert is somebody who has stopped asking questions. An expert is bad. You should always be learning. So, we have, a fundamental belief system in our company, which I think works very, very well within this what you just asked, which is that a flow is actually very, very interesting, and it's that Goldilocks state between complete order and complete entropy. Order meaning a lot of process driven, entropy is very, very innovation driven, but the right mix between process and entropy. And that perspective, that thought, has three governing principles. And these three governing principles are things that we lead our life by, as far as music is concerned. The first one is that learning is far more important than knowing. Learning is d by dt of knowledge. The second one is that we all feel we know a lot of things, but we actually don't know much. We don't even want to accept that we don't know much. We're all like monkeys throwing darts at moving dartboards. The best thing to do is reduce the cost of throwing darts so that you can throw many, many darts. So extreme experimentation is going to be the name of the game. And the third perspective is that the new IP is no more intellectual property. It is actually interdisciplinary perspective. Ideas actually don't want to stay closeted inside something and be protected. It wants to connect with each other. The open source movement is a testament of that. Wikipedia is a testament of that. Everything that we are doing in life is that we want to connect with other things. So if you can follow these three principles of having learning over knowledge, extreme experimentation, and an interdisciplinary perspective to things, I think there is a higher chance that you will have a propensity to ask a better question. And if you have that propensity to ask that better question, then you will get your clarity, you will get your focus, and you get a perseverance. And if you have that, then you can do all these good stuff with big data, small data, large data, long data, fat data, all the data that you want. Yeah? I'm not saying that at this moment. I think it's a very, very interesting concept which holds a lot of promise. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's at this point. It's been there for a long time. But I don't get excited about things that are described by what and how. I get excited about things that are described by why. Until the time we start describing this by why enough times, I think the promise will be just a promise, and it won't meet its full potential. Absolutely. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I think it's a fantastic question. Great question. So the reality is that the most important things in life may not have the data. Like for example, when I decided that when I was 17 years old that I'm going to propose to Ambiga, and she accepted like 4 years later. We shared the same rank in our class. She from the top and me from the bottom. So the perspective is that most important things cannot, you won't know that. But the reality is it will still help your thinking. If you know what data you need, you don't have that data, but you're going to make that decision. And maybe if you have that data, you would have made a better decision, but you're going to still make that decision. But once you have that thinking around what data would have helped me make that decision, and without that data I'm making that decision blind, it still is a good thing, because you may have to make similar decisions 5 times over, right? In the next 6 years, if you have to make some similar decisions, A, first you learn from this, and B, you start collecting that data. You can you can be in one place where you don't have the data once, but otherwise you have to learn from that. My perspective was, the first time I was in a fix with this, I knew that I couldn't make that decision which was purely based on data. I had to use my gut to do that. But after that, I had a very good framework to put in place. I wanted to make sure that I measure the concentration of every customer that I have. I don't want any customer to be more than like 8-10% of my total revenues. Now that's data, right? First time I didn't know that, but now I know that. I know what I went through. So it's about learning from that also, and then start capturing that. So the theory matters as much as observations. Yeah?
Can I add to that big data is all about right-time business insights and decision making at extreme speed?
If you like it, you can do that.
Because you told that only when we have enough data, we can take right-time business insights.
Yeah, good.
So that is at extreme scale.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're happy?
Yes.
Anything that makes you happy. I was happy. What else? Yeah, 2 more questions and then we'll get done, because we are run out of time. And we have a more interesting speaker.
Dheeraj, thanks for your talk. It was very inspiring. So is the big data primarily used in sales and marketing?
I think generally in life, sales and marketing takes an overall larger portion of life. Because information is, there is a lot of information arbitrage in the world. People don't know what they want, what they need, how they should want things, all of those things, which is a sad part of life in my mind. I always philosophize about why sales and marketing should take so much of our life, right? Why a deodorant ad becomes so important. You see these manly guys coming and spraying themselves again and again. That, man, I am done with these deodorants. But that's life. What do? You have a product, and people need to be sprayed on again and again before they buy it. So that's life. So I think 50 to 60% of all what is happening in the world has sales and marketing in it. Maybe 30% would be supply chain. then about 10-15% would be risk. Then a lot of things, other things would be there. So big data would just follow that, right? Because it's kind of like that's already happening in the world. It's just mirroring what is happening, right? It's not doing anything different. So look at what is actually happening. We are not, big data observations don't, create something new. It's observing what is already there. So, and I think the market as it moves up and down will move from, marketing to risk analytics more and more. But I guess we still want a lot of spray around. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead with your question and then next. Yeah, quickly.
For most of us, the services company.
Yeah,
it's a very quick question. For most of us, the services companies are maintenance or support functions or testing, how does a company like Mu Sigma, which is into analytics services, really is profitable? I'm sure there are many of aspiring entrepreneurs sitting here. Should the focus be on starting a company which more involves with analytics products, or should the company be into services?
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You have to solve the problem. See,
but most of the analytics problems are one-time solutions.
Not necessarily. So I don't agree with that. You have to understand the nature of problems. You have to see what type of problems occur a lot and they make a lot of impact. You have to see what problems don't occur frequency and in a lot of frequency and don't make a lot of impact. And then you have to see what all falls in that in between category. You also have to see what problems occur in as units, what problem occurs in pairs and triplets, and how are they connected with each other. So I think learn the problem space really, really well. See the problem space. Think. Sit in a room alone, not with 10 people. Sit in a room alone with silence, with a piece of paper and draw things out. See it. Try to understand. Is it making sense for you? Right? And then you try to do things from there onwards. Yeah, last question, guys.
What is the role of big data in healthcare sector?
Sorry?
Big data role in healthcare sector. The future of big data in healthcare.
It's a lot, because the cost of healthcare is so high in many places. You have to bring down the cost of healthcare. That means that, information, in the value chain has to be exchanged.
What about the research?
Research is there, pre-compliance and post-compliance, lots of things are there. Okay? Great. Thank you, guys.